The Pittsburgh Steelers have had to make many roster moves within the last couple days because they're dealing with so many injuries. They've also had to place players on IR and sign some players to their 53-man roster and practice squad because of all the injuries. But first, before I get more into it, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news and updates. Also, like this video. Now, let's get right back into it. So, the injuries that the Pittsburgh Steelers are dealing with are a lot, and some players like Najee Harris, whose arm has been in a sling ever since the Chargers game, and also Jalen Warren. He had to be pulled from that Chargers game as well. He's still not 100%. He's been dealing with a hamstring injury ever since preseason, and that's why his snaps have been limited week to week, and he's not getting his usual reps as he saw last year. There's also players like Alex Highsmith, who has been dealing with a groin injury ever since the preseason, and he re-aggravated it this past week. His last game against the Chargers, he had to be pulled from the game, never played in the second half, and now he's out for multiple weeks per Mike Tomlin. There's also some players who are obviously have been injured. The guys like Sayamalu, there's really no update on him. He's practicing a little bit, but there's still no update. But there's players that are newly injured, like Corey Trace Jr. He got injured in that Chargers game with a hamstring injury, and he's now placed on injured reserve and will be out for at least the next 4 weeks. Also, Trey Fatanu. Earlier in the week before the Chargers game, we all know he dealt with a knee injury and he was held out of the game. That's why he was not starting at right tackle and Broderick Jones was. And no one really knew what the injury was to his knee, but it has been reported that it's a dislocated kneecap. So he may be out for the entire season. Who knows? So the Pittsburgh Steelers are dealing with a lot of injuries right now to their team, meaning that they had to go out and sign some players. And they had some open roster spots. Because Corey Trace Jr., he went in injured reserve, that means they had an open roster spot. Troy Fatanu went in injured reserve, that opened up another roster spot. So that's 2 roster spots the Pittsburgh Steelers had open. And last week, they signed James Pierre to their practice squad, meaning that now he's signed to the main roster and he's signed to the 53-man roster and will take the place of Corey Trace Jr. But that still leaves 1 roster spot open, meaning the Pittsburgh Steelers had to fill that. And who did they sign? Well, they signed offense tackle Kelvin Anderson to their main roster after the Patriots released him off of injury reserve earlier in the month. So he's been injured throughout his career, but he has a lot of experience and starting experience as well. Looking at Anderson, Kelvin Anderson, he's appeared in 46 games in the NFL, making 14 starts for the Denver Broncos and the New England Patriots. He made 12 of those starts for the Broncos across 2019 to 2022, including 7 at offensive tackle in 2022. He signed with the New England Patriots in 2023, the team who initially signed him after the 2019 NFL Draft, and he started 2 games for them last season. He in total logged 154 offensive snaps in 2023, all at right tackle. So you see the kind of slope that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going down. They had to fill that right tackle spot because of Troy Fatanu, and they went out and signed someone who has been a decent player when he is healthy, but he just hasn't been healthy. He has experience in this league at right tackle, so the Pittsburgh Steelers fill that right tackle spot, signing him to the main roster. Obviously, Troy Fatanu is injured, and Dylan Cook is still on injury reserve as well. When he gets back from injury reserve, maybe he comes to the main roster, but who knows as of right now. So that's the kind of introduction to the new player Anderson joining this 53-man roster, joining this Pittsburgh Steelers team. And it's kind of crazy to think about because Broderick Jones was benched last week for Troy Fatanu. Troy Fatanu looked like he was going to be the starter. Broderick Jones looks like he was going to be the swing tackle. But injuries happen, things changed quickly, and on Friday's practice, Troy Fatanu gets injured, and now Broderick Jones is back to the starting spot, and now the Pittsburgh Steelers have to rely on him once again. So it's crazy how things work in the NFL and how crazy things kind of switch so quickly. Obviously, James Pierre, he did a great job this past game against the Chargers. The Pittsburgh Steelers gunner situation on special teams in the punt game has been terrible with the first 2 weeks. And then James Pierre, he gets signed to the practice squad elevated on game day, plays in the game, and their gunner situation is so much better. He's played gunner for the Pittsburgh Steelers basically his entire tenure with this team, played special teams. He knows what Danny Smith, the special teams coach, wants, how the Pittsburgh Steelers do business, how they want to execute on special teams, and he was able to execute it to a T. He does a great job as a gunner, and that's why I wanted him on the Pittsburgh Steelers, because he's a great depth piece, not only on defense, but a great special teamer. And the Pittsburgh Steelers missed him those first 2 weeks, but him being back against the Chargers, he was always right there and making them have to call fair catches or making them have to have no return because he's right there once they catch the ball, ready to make the tackle. So James Pierre being back on the 53-man roster with Corey Trice going down with injury is not a good sign because Corey Trice Jr. has been showing out, getting that interception, hasn't played well. It's not a good sign for Corey Trice Jr. It's obviously because he missed his whole entire first season as well, so he's really been injury prone. But hopefully he's able to get back sooner rather than later. Once those 4 weeks are up, he's able to get right back to where he left off. But for right now, James Pierre filling his place, the Pittsburgh Steelers are in good hands with him and someone they're used to, and it's great to see and have him back on this team. I'm also going to probably make a separate video on him, but the Pittsburgh Steelers, they have signed former first-round pick of the Jacksonville Jaguars, C.J. Henderson. He's a player who had great potential in this league, but he's been out of the league this season so far, and the Pittsburgh Steelers just signed him to the practice squad, and he could have an impact on this team if he's given the opportunity. So, C.J. Henderson, I might be making a video on him shortly. But that's who they signed to their practice squad, and those are the 3 players they signed within the last few days. They've obviously also made some moves, but it's really just releasing players that have been on the practice squad, signing players who've been on the practice squad before, so I won't really get into those. So, the Pittsburgh Steelers are making moves, but let's talk about the injuries once again, because that's not a good sign for the Steelers. They're dealing with a lot of them, and it's their main and key players as well. Najee Harris being in a sling is not a good sign. Jaylen Warren being injured again is not a good sign, because now it would only leave Cordell Patterson to be on this roster. He looks explosive so far in the early portion of the season, but obviously the Pittsburgh Steelers like using multiple backs, especially in the Arthur Smith offense, using multiple backs. Najee Harris should be fine for the game, but obviously he's dealing with something because his arm was in a sling. Mike Tomlin said he should be ready for this game, but hopefully it doesn't get re-aggravated or become worse as he keeps playing through it. Jaylen Warren has been playing through something this entire season, his hamstring injury, and that's why he just doesn't look the same. He looked like the best running back on the team last year in terms of explosiveness, everything like that. But this season, he's just been having limited reps, not given the opportunity. I don't know if it's because the Steelers want to go more with Najee Harris and Cordell Patterson than Jaylen Warren. It may be because of that, or they just may be limited snaps because of the injury. So hopefully Jaylen Warren is able to get back fully from that and get back quick, because we have to see what Jaylen Warren could do, because he's been elite for the Steelers his first few seasons with the team, and it'd be great to have him at full strength. Also, Alex Highsmith, with him going down with a groin injury, he will miss multiple weeks, meaning the Pittsburgh Steelers will have an opportunity to have Nick Herbig start. Mike Tomlin said he's ready. Nick Herbig is ready. He showed it. He proved it last week. TJ Watt thinks he's ready, and hopefully he's able to replace Alex Highsmith these couple of weeks greatly at outside linebacker and be able to do everything necessary to have the Pittsburgh Steelers still succeed. I believe Nick Herbig, he was underrated coming out of college, leading college in all sacks, dropped all the way down to the 4th round, and he's elite for the Steelers, and he will show why. The Wisconsin kind of era at outside linebacker has been great, going from TJ Watt to Nick Herbig. So Wisconsin guys on the outside, TJ Watt and Nick Herbig rushing the passer. It's great to see them in the NFL now succeeding. Something to note quickly as well, I may make a longer video on this as well, but Mason McCormick, Spencer Anderson, they kind of been alternating at left guard with Isaac Seumalo out, especially this past week. They've been alternating the Chargers game, like the rotation that we saw with Broderick Jones and Troy Fatanu in the week prior. So hopefully Isaac Seumalo is able to get back here quickly, and they won't have to do that rotation anymore, and they could just have one guy as a swing guy who comes in as an extra offensive lineman. So Isaac Seimalu hopefully makes progress and is able to come back quickly from this pec injury. With that being said, let's end this video. This is pretty bad for the Pittsburgh Steelers in terms of all the injuries they're dealing with right now to their top guys. Obviously, they place players on injury reserve, players are out for multiple weeks, and just other players are dinged up. So they signed some players to replace those players. And let me know your thoughts in the comments below about everything in terms of all the injuries, all the players that you just signed, and everything like that. Who will make the most and biggest impact from being missed because of the players injured, who will be missed the most, and who will kind of step up in terms of the players signed. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I believe James Pierre will continue making the biggest impact from all the players the Pittsburgh Steelers have signed within the last few weeks. And also, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news, updates, highlights, analysis, reports, everything involving Pittsburgh Steelers. I've been covering it. I'll continue to cover it. So like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications, and I'll see you guys all later. Until next time, I'm out. Peace.